Welcome to everyone. I'm David Crow, and it's my great pleasure and honor to be able to sit with a man who is definitely a great inspiration and master teacher of Ayurveda in this country at this time. So welcome, David Frawley.
Namaste, David. It's always wonderful to be with you, particularly in my own home with an open view of the sky.
Thank you for your hospitality here in Santa Fe. And the subject of our discussion here today is the course that you will be presenting for Floracopeia, which is Soma. Tell us about this program that you are putting together for us.
It is dealing with the subjects of rejuvenation, longevity, immortality. Soma is a Vedic word that refers to our inner essence of immortality, but also the essence of happiness, bliss, contentment, and the positive tonification, nurturing therapies that build up our energy, awareness, and creativity from within. So today we're living in a time where there is tremendous depletion, disorientation, stress, in which we have lost our vital essence, in which we're often confused, disturbed, caught in all these externalities. And so this power of rejuvenation, revitalization is central for all treatment today, and is a very important model to consider. It's almost like a paradigm shift in treatment to look at this essence of Soma, rejuvenation, tonification, nourishment, connecting to also to our immortal essence, rather than just simply going after toxins or trying to purify or trying to get rid of negativities.
And what exactly does the word Soma mean?
Soma means to create, to nurture, to swell, to expand, to produce, and it also refers to these powers of bliss and delight. Essentially, there is a duality, the great Vedic duality, the yin and yang of Vedic thought, of Agni and Soma, which are fire and water, sun and moon, purification and nurturing, which are the mountain and the valley, which are the male and the female. All these dualities go there. But here with the Soma, we're emphasizing that Soma side so that we are bringing about a connection with the well springs of well-being, contentment, immortality within and around us, and taking a more positive, proactive approach to improving our lives on all levels.
So what are the qualities of Soma and why are they important for us to know about?
Well, the qualities of Soma are an extension of the Kapha dosha, or the biological water humor, at the inmost level. So they are involved with water, with quenching thirst, with food, with providing nourishment, with enjoyment, also enjoyment through the senses, enjoyment through the mind, ultimately with divine love, devotion, and the bliss, the ananda, that is the basis of everything, and that brings about all transformations in a gentle way. So Soma is one of these, like Agni, a universal metaphor that has an analogical value on many levels for unlocking these vital essences that have that ability to nourish and transform from within, rather than to kind of, as we do in medicine today, try to attack and destroy from without.
So this is really more concerned with processes we would call in Chinese medicine nourishing the yin, building the fluids, rather than boosting energy or stimulating energy or trying to activate prana. This is really more about the nutritive side of the rejuvenation equation.
Generally speaking, yes, but it's that nutritive side on which the other energies rest. For example, Soma is also the fuel for the Agni, or the fire. So Soma is not simply a passive yin force, it also has a certain creative essence to it, but it is more concerned with the fluidic side, and it's also concerned with deeper receptive qualities. You could call them mainly yin qualities, but they also have a certain dynamism to it. For example, in Vedic thought, Soma is also an aspect of Shiva, as that energy which not only energizes, it almost inebriates, elevates us. So at a yogic level, Soma is also the samadhi, the higher state of consciousness through the unity, through the connection, and giving us the vital energy, connection, foundation, so that we can handle these pranic, electrical, fiery forces without depleting ourselves or burning us out.
And what would you say is the general condition of Soma in our modern culture?
Well, we have to understand there's two aspects of Soma, what I call the inner Soma, which is the happiness, contentment, vitality from within, and the outer Soma, which is the stimulation, entertainment, and enjoyment we get from the outside. Both have their place. But in the modern world, we're very much dominated by not only an outer Soma, but new high-tech Soma forms, as in Brave New World, through the computers, through the mass media, through the entertainment media, through a whole range of designer drugs, both recreationally and medicinally. So we're being taken over by these outer somatic forces, and we're losing our inner Soma, which includes our peace, our well-being, our contentment, our living connection with ourselves, other people, and the universe as a whole.
So you're basically referring to a natural form of Soma versus a kind of toxic form of Soma. Is that correct?
I think we can say that, but we do get natural forms of Soma through the senses.
All right.
But we also get artificial forms of Soma through the senses. Mm-hmm. We have naturally based food. We also have unnaturally developed processed food. So there is that, but there is, in the modern world, there's more of this toxic and dependent outer forms of Soma that is coming up. Mm-hmm. And we need to balance them with the inner forms of Soma. We can't get rid of our computers. We can't get rid of our media, but we can reach a state where they don't dominate our mind and we're still connected to the living universe rather than just simply to the internet.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's very interesting that Santa Fe, New Mexico has been under extreme drought conditions for a long time, and here you are introducing the subject of Soma and it starts to rain. Do you think that there's a connection?
Oh, absolutely. Weather is one of the subjects I work with, and I've been trying to learn how to change it. So maybe I'm making some progress. But all kidding aside, we can see the loss of Soma in our environment right here.
Exactly.
And we need ways to bring the Soma back. And of course you had the rain dances and all of that of the traditional societies, but we need a greater cultural change to bring more of that Soma nurturing force into our lives so that we don't just become addicts of our cell phones, our computers, and whatever screen is around us.
Right, exactly. Let's talk about the title of the course that you're going to be offering. And I would just like to say, and before we actually introduce it, that I'm very grateful and really honored that you have agreed to do this. I know that you're extremely busy with your writing. You teach all over the world. And you have a lot of responsibilities with major Ayurvedic centers in different parts of the country. And so the fact that you would actually take the time to offer this course is something that I personally am very thankful for. I appreciate it very much, and I know that everybody is going to be very eager and very, very interested in what this course is about. So tell us the full title.
The title of the course is Soma, the Secret of Rejuvenation in Yoga and Ayurveda. First of all, relative to Ayurveda, it's an attempt to create a paradigm shift in how we approach Ayurveda. We tend to approach Ayurveda more through the Agni, through the fire, through the Panchakarma and the detoxification processes, and we tend to forget that the detoxification is preliminary to the rejuvenation process and not an end in itself. And then secondly, we forget that a lot of us are already depleted and detoxification processes can be further depleting. So in many instances, we need to start off with a rejuvenation process rather than go for it the second phase, which is the more usual route. And then the second point, I emphasize yoga and Ayurveda, because yoga properly done is mainly a rejuvenation process, not a detoxification process. And a lot of the rejuvenation therapies in Ayurveda involve yoga as asana, pranayama, mantra, meditation, and we need a paradigm shift in the yoga world, because in the yoga world we're also dominated by hot yoga, active yoga, and that all has its place. We do need the detoxification, but we also tend to burn ourselves out and become overstimulated. So I think we need to restore the balance of the soma, the water, the yin principle, the Shiva principle in the higher sense, so that we can have the full range of therapies and benefit from them where we are. And as I mentioned earlier, we have this tremendous stress of our society that's depleting the soma. It's also creating a lot of false inner fires and outer fires, so that even from the social level, soma has a very important place in our way of thinking for creating a model of health, well-being for the 21st century. And that's rooted in these great traditions of Vedas, yoga, and Ayurveda.
What are some of the specific methods or techniques that people will learn by taking this course? What benefits will people actually be able to find for themselves as far as rejuvenating their own soma?
Well, first of all, the orientation of the course is practical. We will discuss some of the theoretical background which is necessary, and understanding the anatomy and physiology of soma and rejuvenation in the body and mind and the consciousness. That's very important. But we also will go through the full range of methods and approaches for a deeper rejuvenation, starting with how we approach diet and nutrition, types of food, types of eating, moving on to herbs, including special tonic rejuvenative herbs from the Ayurvedic tradition, and not only the herbs for the body, but also the herbs for the mind, because rejuvenation of the body rests upon rejuvenation of the mind, and vice versa, rejuvenation of the mind rests upon rejuvenation of the body. We'll also look into aromas. There's a whole wonderful concept of soma aroma, which of course rhymes, but it also has other indications. And then the whole role of sensory impressions, the place of touch, sight, taste, smell, all the senses, and what kinds of factors of nourishment are we getting for them, and sensory therapies that we can also use, whether it's aromatherapy, color therapy, and all the different forms of therapeutic touch, and the oil therapies are important. So in other words, we will go through the main range of Ayurvedic practices, and also looking at lifestyle, and also looking at issues of aging, and the role of soma increasing, ojas increasing, rejuvenation practices within the field of Ayurveda. Then we will also take the same role relative to yoga, seeing what yogic attitudes and principles, how they help us in terms of rejuvenation and inner well-being, and then even the types of asanas that are more, and the way of doing asana that is more rejuvenating, calming, stilling, developing our inner collectedness and concentration. Pranayama, there's a whole way of using pranayama to develop soma rather than to just develop a lot of air and energy. We'll also look at some soma sounds and mantras. There's a whole range of mantra practices relative to certain deities and powers, like forms of the Devi or the goddess, the Divine Mother, that promote more the soma energy. And working on into meditation, which is the ultimate way of developing soma in the mind. And as I said, the samadhi that yoga is aiming at is the flow of soma in the mind. Today we tend to overemphasize the kundalini fire and effort, exertion, and developing these inner powers, but there's also the yoga, the inner flow of soma, and the balancing of the ascending fire with the descending nectar and flow of grace. So we'll have a practical approach, but comprehensive through yoga and Ayurveda, covering the main relative aspects of our lives, because these are all different aspects of our lives. So we have this integral paradigm for taking control of our brain chemistry, for taking control of our nutritive energy, for finding our inner well-being, and for connecting with the bliss energies of the universe. The Vedas end with the Soma hymns as the greatest and the most important part of the Vedic practice, and even Maharishi Mahesh Yogi had people listen to only the Soma hymns of the Vedas. So we're moving you in that direction of developing that inner Soma, not as some esoteric teaching from India, but getting back to the well springs of life, immortality, fountain of immortality, holy grail, and some of the magical powers of transformation that are triggered by many things, whether it's herbs, whether it's pranayama. There's ways of triggering and catalyzing these transformative properties and energies that cause us or bring about greater longevity, but also greater harmony and contentment even when we're younger. Help us gain greater flexibility of the mind to stand the onslaught of all these computer energies that we're dealing with. And so it's not just about helping you live longer, it's also about helping us live better and access that deeper quality or essence. Soma means rasa, or essence, being able to get the essence, the juice, or the inner vitality from things.
There it goes again. You started mentioning the rasa, and here comes more rain. So I'm curious, you've been focused on this topic now for several years because you've been writing this book,
Right.
Soma, that was just published last year. And I'm curious, during this process of immersing yourself in this subject, what did you find was happening for you personally by contemplating this topic, this aspect of the universe, by exploring these practices for yourself? What have you learned for yourself? What have you experienced for yourself as far as the rejuvenation of your own Soma?
Yes. Well, it's actually this whole process of working with Soma came from my personal work and practice in the yoga and the Ayurveda. It was something that was kind of building up below the surface. I did a whole book on Agni some years ago. And then, of course, getting a little bit older, you also look into certain rejuvenation methods, but also coming to a certain stage of understanding relative to the forces around us. I've always had an appreciation of art, and Soma is another form of art, or bringing in the essence, an appreciation of nature, and a necessity today of, through ecology, relinking back to the Soma, or the rasa, that's in our environment. So I try to look at these things not in a theoretical level, but through nature and through life, exploring different types of fruits or nuts that have more Soma qualities, exploring a whole range of herbs that have more Soma qualities, including doing some research in the Himalayas on the ancient Himalayan Soma plants, and then working with yoga practices. Particularly, I recently did a whole book on mantra, and there I extended that into the working with the Soma mantras. I haven't done a book on pranayama, but I've written quite a lot, but exploring the Soma side of it as very important. So these have been the essence of my practices and research in recent years, and also the need to bring that out in the society, and Soma as a way of sharing, communication, association. These are another Soma, and Soma as kind of the pinnacle of my Vedic work. My work started out with Rig Veda more than 40 years ago, and the concern there is to bring out that essence of Vedic knowledge, and that essence is the Soma. And the Soma is not just a matter of practice or technique, it's a matter of inspiration. You can get the ideal herbal formula to treat a particular disease, and it may or may not work. We have to remember we're always treating living people, not diseases. And we're not giving out formulas only, we're helping people to live. And so the quality of inspiration we bring is as much important as the particular things that we may recommend. But we want to recommend those things from nature and even from other people that help build up those inner essences and that inner inspiration, so that that creative energy flows and that we can dwell into that. And so I've tried to live more in the cosmic mind than simply in society, although we, of course, work a lot in society. And Soma comes from the mountains, so living in the mountains is a very important way to connect with the Soma energy. So Soma has been part of a way of life and not simply an academic study. And what I've tried to present is from my years of work and experience in different areas, and a model that's addressing body, mind, and consciousness, and the essence of the human being, not just simply getting caught up in technicalities of diseases. At the same time, we need to change our lifestyle, and that requires changing basic things, how we eat, sleep, breathe, think, relate, and our work, and our daily life, and also our spiritual practices. So I've tried to take that holistic, comprehensive approach that's yet rooted in the nature and rooted in my own inner soul experience that I've tried to cultivate over the years.
So this is really deep personal expression that you are offering in the form of this course. It really is not just an academic exercise for you. I think that says a lot about the
Yes.
the kind of work that you're doing, and the kind of material that people will really be able to enjoy in this program. Now, you will be offering a free class, Soma, the nectar of rejuvenation, and this free class will introduce the course. And as always, when we launch a course, we invite everyone to enjoy the first class and get a sense of what you're doing. So tell us, what is that course, what is that introductory class going to cover in brief?
Well, first of all, I think it's very necessary to introduce the topic of Soma so that people understand what it is. You know, it's the name of certain drug companies. You find it in Brave New World. Soma is a Greek word meaning the body, and we're going to be talking about something a little different. So we want to introduce that Soma paradigm to people, and even in the context of the Agni Soma paradigm. We want people to learn to understand the importance of these rejuvenation, tonification therapies when they're necessary, and how everybody needs them to some degree, and how they're relevant for both body and mind. I also do intend to kind of give an overview of what I want to cover in the course overall, because it's going to have different levels and layers and steps. It's not going to be all uniform thing, but we'll cover different topics relative to nutrition, relative to herbs, relative to yoga practice, so kind of overview. But mainly we want people to awaken to the meaning and the value and the power of Soma, the need to connect to the inner Soma, and the need to understand the limitations of the outer Soma, and sort of the whole sense of how Soma has been placed in healing traditions throughout the world, whether it's the Chinese tradition of rejuvenation, whether it's the Holy Grail, the fountain of immortality. Sometimes these things sound funny, sometimes they sound speculative, but there is a deeper source of things that we can get to. And if we can go to that source, we can almost go beyond the need for other things. But yet we have many ways of accessing that source. So at this first stage, we want to bring you in touch with the source of Soma within you and around you.
Nice. Now, before we actually give people the invitation to the free class and what to do next to get the course, there's one thing you said earlier in our discussion that I think may have caught several people's attention. It certainly caught my attention. In your definition of the term Soma, you were actually describing it as the nectar of immortality.
Yes.
Could you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yes, that's
do you mean this literally, metaphorically, symbolically, as an archetype, as a potential of our human nature, or what exactly does that mean?
All of those. And essentially, this is the highest level of Soma, is the nectar of immortality. But that is the ananda, or the bliss of Satchit Ananda. That is the immortality of consciousness. Now, it's very interesting. The body dies, but we can make it live longer. It's possible to rejuvenate the body for a certain period of time. The mind does not have to get old. You can rejuvenate the mind. And the consciousness never dies. It is always immortal. But we're isolated or alienated from our inner immortality, so we seek happiness externally. So there is this inner nectar of immortality. It's connected to the tarpa kapha, which is the form of kapha which lubricates the brain and the nervous system. It's a byproduct of or connected to the ojas, or the primary essence of kapha. And it is also the nectar, the amrit of the 1,000-petal lotus of the head, or the crown chakra, which is said to be the region of Soma, which is also the domain of the moon. And it is that opening of that lotus of the head that is the flow of grace, that is the flow of the Soma, that connects us to our inner immortality. So that yogic immortality, that yogic Soma is the highest Soma. That's the highest rejuvenative immortal essence. Then we have the somas of the mind, the nervous system, the senses, the bodies, moving on down from there. But we do want to also connect to that essence of immortality, because that's also the basis of rejuvenation. If you can connect to your inner immortality, that is one of the key powers for rejuvenating body and mind. At the same time, it also gives us the inner peace and contentment of knowing that even if we cannot live forever physically, we're always living forever spiritually. And even if there's some aging issues relative to the mind, that core of consciousness within us will remain, will endure.
So thank you very much. This has been really inspiring discussion as usual. It's always a great pleasure to sit and talk with you. It happens not often enough, but when it does, it always has a really nice inspirational effect for me personally. I know that every time that you have shared something as a webcast with the members of Medicine Crow, for example, I know that was very well attended and greatly appreciated by all the members of the site, and everything that you have contributed along the way as far as the short videos that we've made, the interviews that we've done. I know they've all been very well received, and I think that this represents something entirely new, actually, a complete course of many hours of very, very in-depth, very profound teachings, and also very practical. So again, we invite you to check out the free class. It's very easy. Just check out the link on the page here that you have received. Anything else in closing?
Yes, thank you, David. You always help bring out the deeper inspiration in the people that you interview. And I would like to invite everyone to attend this initial class on Soma. There's nothing to be hesitant about sharing your deeper enjoyment, inspiration, creativity, the deeper powers of the universe. And I think we need to do more of that. Soma is the ultimate satsang in a way. It's the ultimate connection of the essence and the bliss and the immortality within us, and the bringing out of our inspiration, aspiration to heal ourselves, to heal the world, and to open up to the cosmic presence, which is always naturally healing and transformative.